always good to get stuff cheap. You know, nobody likes a high price. But you know, with stuff that comes with cheaper prices, especially in the resale market, the nature of things is they might need repairing, they might need upgrading, they might need a whole lot of things. And used consoles are really a good example of this. Today we have a Xbox One X, which has been not overheating, but the fans have been quite loud. And it's one of those things that we're going to get inside and change out the thermal paste, because that's one of the #1 culprits in regards to overheating or making the system really work for its pay, so to speak. For the back, we use a T9 torque wrench that actually will be used for everything, and fits into every single star head that is on this console. Other supplies that will be needed are MX4 thermal paste, needle nose pliers, microfiber cloths, Q-tips, 91% isopropyl alcohol, and preferably canned air. Optional pieces of equipment are gloves and thermal pads. You don't have to change out the thermal pads, it's just something that we're going to touch on a little bit. Because, you know, I just wanted to be thorough. I didn't know why the fans were blowing. If there's anything I can do to make this console just a little bit cooler, totally. This is the Gears of War Special Edition. I think this was in 2019. Some of the components are from 2017. Yeah, be really patient getting the tops off, especially with the One X. I struggled a lot getting this off because I got it stuck halfway out, and it's one of those things. This is a case you just gotta be real patient. You lift up from one side. I was lifting up from the wrong side, but it should just pop out a little bit. I've already overextended it here, but just be real ginger with it, real patient, and it'll end up popping right off. My camera really did not want to focus, except on that. You know, it's a real cool case, but something with the LiDAR scanner or the iPhone just really doesn't like those kinds of grates and holes. Like, you see, it's completely fine here, but it's just something with the focus. I'll end up turning it off. But yeah, keep an eye on these ribbons here when you're taking it apart. They go over the edge. Anything that can be cut or damaged, you really don't want to do that, because any kind of ribbon relating to tech is really hard to repair, and it's just something you don't want to have to deal with. Yeah, see, I'm trying to regain the focus, and then I end up kind of just like giving up and switching up on something else. But yeah, for the console, keep an eye on where the pads on the side, not the pads, the bars and connectors on the sides are. We'll end up popping those off. I'll point those out real quick. But first things first, we gotta, you know, get our torque wrench again. This will basically handle every single one of these little screws. I would really suggest when you're taking them off, take them off in order of orientation of where like you pull them from, so you aren't, you know, wondering where went where. But first things first, we're gonna get these little silicone boards on the sides off real quick. The ones on the bottom have 2 silver screws, or in the bottom in this orientation, have 2 silver screws and a smaller black screw. I'll probably point those out. And the one going lengthwise has 3 gold screws. So it's really just good to keep that in mind, because there's one time I took this apart and completely forgot that the longer screws went into the longer side. But yeah, just be a little careful with it. You know, nothing can go wrong with, you know, treating this like it's fragile, because the deeper you get, it's effectively you're doing, you know, open organ surgery on something. It's the equivalent of that digitally. But yeah, you know, keep in mind there's the black screw right there, and then the other 2 are the longer silver ones. The other 2 are interchangeable, but the black one that is the farthest to the right for that is not. So just keep that in mind, remember that. But we're going to take out all those, and then we're going to pull it out of the back there. We're going to pull it, just pull it straight out. Be a little careful with it, because it is connected to a few pin connectors. But put your screws somewhere safe, because, you know, if you lose those, you're kind of screwed. I mean, not entirely screwed, but anything that's missing, you don't want something missing after you're repairing it, you know. As much fun as it is to get bonus parts when you're done, it's not something you really want to do in this case. So you can really do this in any order. There's a few tech sites and channels who do it in a very specific order with that connector right there, and then do like the panels on the sides. I personally think you can just pull out almost every silver screw, not pull out, but, you know, unscrew every silver headed screw. Don't do the black ones yet, those are holding in the motherboard, and the heat sink, which is holding in the motherboard. So we're not going to touch that yet, but getting this little connector off in the corner is our main priority. That connects the front board to the bottom panel, which connects it to the power button. So basically, if you lose that, or if for whatever reason you rip that ribbon off, you pretty much can't turn on your console. Like there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. So be really careful about it. You can actually, at some point, you can unscrew those by hand. Most people use plastic picks or wooden tools to get that little bit off, but you can just straight up use your fingernail. Just be a little careful with it. I've done this so many times, it just pops off immediately, but if it's a case that you're doing this for the first time, you know, be a little careful with it. It might be a little more stiff. But as you go, keep on taking out these screws and putting them next to you, as said, in the order not order you took them out, but in the orientation you took them out, just because it'll save you a headache later. You can see I'm sitting here thinking real quick. But because making space to, you know, put those screws. You'll have 4 or 5 longer ones, and then all the others will be these shorter types. But yeah, you want to see, I took that from the top, so I'm going to put it from the top on my right. And just kind of literally go around taking them out. Not really speeding it up, because I just want to, you know, want to show that, you know, just, you know, there's a whole process. You know, a lot of folks speed it up. And there will be parts of this video that'll be, you know, abbreviated, but it's just a thing of, you know, sitting back, relaxing, watching it all happen, you know. But we're just gonna keep taking out these screws. It's funny, you can't see it, and I wish I highlighted it when I was filming, but I stamped on that top panel right there is May 29th, 2017, which is when that panel itself was machined. But the funny part is, if you look at the old hard drive failed, but if you look at it, it says 2019, because the Gears of War Special Edition was manufactured in 2019. So fascinating to really see how they reuse parts, you know, how parts across, I mean, if it's under the hood, who's going to know the difference, right? You know, if it's the same internals minus, you know, a few bits and bobs, it's no real downside in that. But we're going to keep on unscrewing these and putting them off to the side. Based on how many times you know, take apart or clean or upgrade your Xbox, it's going to be a case of, like, you'll get really good at recognizing where stuff is. But as mentioned earlier, you don't really got to go in any specific order. Just remember where each thing came from. Some will be stiffer than others. Even if you take it apart and put it back together, you know, 100 times, certain screws will just hold differently, because they're not all of them are screwed into the same material or interface. But always, you know, play on the side of patience, and, you know, treat it like it's fragile, because a lot of this stuff is, you know, it's easy to over tighten. It's easy to, you know, basically bore out all the threading. And on the back side, there's actually a screw that I screwed in way too hard, and I think you might see later in the video when I'm tightening it, it's just gonna basically spin in the slot. But this corner area here with these 4, I'll see if I'm gonna, oh yeah, no, but that corner where the 4 silver screws I haven't taken out are, that's where your hard drive or solid state drive is. And something to keep in mind, because those screws aren't really structural, they're just more to hold that bracket up so it doesn't touch anything else. It's not even like, it's necessary to function perfectly, but it's just something that if you're using a solid state drive or you don't mind your other components touching, if you lose one of those screws, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. But getting out these gold screws in the front, there's 3 of them, they'll be the same length, unlike that shorter panel on the side. This is also going to have a pin connector similarly to the other one. When the time comes, after we get this last screw out, just a second. We're going to try pulling the board outwards, not downwards or to the side, because we really don't want, there's a bit of plastic I'll point out. Yeah, I don't want that ribbon to break right there. What you can do is you can take a smaller implement and try to flip it up and then remove the ribbon. You don't have to worry about anything hanging out. I will try that, but it's a case of if you don't have a fine enough implement that's not metal that won't tear or scratch it, I wouldn't attempt it. And I end up backing down somewhat fast, but it's just one of those things that my glove gets stuck. I always get pinched in these and kind of folding tools. But you can try flipping it up, pulling the ribbon out. I'm just so terrified of tearing that ribbon that I honestly am just going to end up leaving it there. But fortune favors the patient, fortune favors the bold, but I'm err on the side of patience because there's a way to get it out. You don't have to remove the ribbon. A lot of instruction videos say you do, but it's just a case like as long as you're really, really careful, you should be okay. Case that I really could have jammed. I could jam this finer screwdriver bit in, and it could be okay, but it's just a thing of I wasn't trying to risk it. Wasn't trying to push too hard on it. It just wasn't worth it. So I'm just gonna leave it pretty much. Because all the times I've taken it out before, I've just left it there. It's no biggie, but we're just going to keep on kind of going, just pull that board out and kind of lay it down. Make sure that tab on the left when we flip it over, yep, right there. Yeah, pull it outwards, not straight down, because that black plastic connector that's kind of hanging up there, you do not want to bend any of the pins in there by pulling it straight out. Those 2 screws on the far side are what hold in basically your power, where you put in your power cord, holds it in place. So you really, really, really want those to be in place, or else if they're not, you can just push the apparatus that connects to any cable deeper into the machine, which is really inconvenient and just a hassle. But we will have to take out the power supply for this one, so it's a case where we have to remove those. For switching out a hard drive or doing any cleaning, you don't have to remove those. Those are a few screws you really don't have to remove. So we're going to have to flip it over. I'll have to, unscrew the hard drive area first, but we're going to have to flip it over. If you don't remove the ribbon, this is a slightly more stressful thing because you have to really mentally, I gotta get the hard drive real quick, but you have to mentally fortify yourself to really keep it with the machine while not crushing it. Just be a little careful with it. But you can also peep the message I've written in here the last 9 times I've prepared it. I replaced the hard drive with the solid state, and it was a headache, let me tell you. It's not supposed to be, but it's just the system gave me a little bit of issues when I was formatting the drive. But nonetheless, I'll probably do a tutorial on that later. But for now, we're just going to do a thermal paste application and call it a day. And keep unscrewing these. These just hold the harness in. These aren't directly to the solid state. But they're the bracket, not the harness. So now we're going to flip it over, and you notice I hold that side with those, you know, hanging connectors real gently, because you don't want to pinch those, you don't want those to, you know, get bent up. And we're going to kind of like pull the back up and off a little bit, being real careful to not, you know, yank on anything. If something's not moving, literally just be real, like, patient with it. Just be real fragile with it, real patient. That's the connector, you know, for the power button and all that. If it's a limited edition console, it has a custom power-up noise, that's what it comes from. Fun fact. So if you lose that and you put it on a different case, you won't have the same power-up noise. Anyways, so there's only 2 of these screws in the back. The one of these that's facing me in this shot, I've overbored so much, or I've just literally drilled out pretty much. It's so loose. Like, it's not super, like, both of these, I mean, they hold stuff together, but it's a case of if you over tighten any one of these, obviously you don't want it, but it's less of a sin on, you know, this side of it, because there's only 2. You gotta be real careful, because there's these pads along the back plastic side that sometimes can pull out. They're what sort of lie along the ridge here. They're separated. Some are all together, but some models, they just kind of chop them up, which is weird. So, you know, sometimes one can fall back into the power supply, which isn't that bad. You can just dig it out, but you gotta be careful. You gotta take out the disk drive first. This is a pretty easy one. You just lift up on that hook, and then you're gonna pull out both the cables, the SATA, and then there's another one. You gotta pull. Be real careful again. Super easy to bend these pins if you know you just kind of force it. When in doubt, just use some, you know, needle nose pliers. If you do use that, be kind of careful, because it's a case that it's easy to just mangle it even more if you put too much strength into it. It's a case that anytime you use pliers with this kind of stuff, especially, you know, all metal, be real careful. You peep the custom SSD. I just, you know, threw a sticker on a generic solid state and doing well. But you gotta disconnect the hard drive or SSD next. You know, just same thing like the disk drive, 2 cables. Be real careful. You know, wiggle them a little, see if you can get them out by like gently but firmly wiggling. If you can't, you know, no sin in that. If you pull up a little too hard, you might pop. There's a plate connecting the solid state bracket to the wire, which, you know, it's just easy to put on. You just snap it back on. First time I pulled that out, I freaked out so much, but it literally just holds the cable down, makes it look nice. But kind of got to wrap it around that end of the bracket, and good to go. So next we have to do the power supply. The power supply is actually oddly easy. Actually got to undo the fan first, because you won't be able to get the fan up if you don't do shit in order. But try with your fingers first. I was able to pull it out just with my hands, but not everybody is. Next thing, you're just gonna kind of, you know, pull up right on the power supply. It'll unhook from a few things, and then the cable in the back will kind of come up with like a sticky sort of pop. Like you have to pull it off almost like Velcro. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about replacing it. Just be careful with it, because you can just lay it back down after you're done repairing it. But it's a case of be really careful, because it'll feel like, you know, it's meant to be permanent. But make sure the metal cable itself doesn't come broken or disconnected. It's just the Velcro-ish stuff on it. So now we got the heatsink and the motherboard, you know, looking pretty bare bones now. Next goal is to get the back plate off and then get the motherboard off. But first we're gonna, you know, spray some canned air on it. I can't understate how much, you know, of a blessing canned air is. I didn't use it until about a month ago, and you can just spray it and get rid of everything. We're gonna flip it over again, just so we can unscrew. There's the 4 screws that we left, the black ones, and then we can just pull out the motherboard and the heatsink. Once again, there's a few wires that you can disconnect if you want. I couldn't get them loose, so it's a thing like these 2 right there, they're just hanging. You can leave them there, there's not really any downside to it. careful of them. Don't want to damage them. And then flip over, and we're going to do those 4 black screws once again. You know, make sure you're doing them in the, you know, leaving them in the orientation that kind of gives you the tip off that those are the 4 from that area. These ones will be really, really stiff, especially if nobody's been in there before. Like, I mean, this isn't a lie. Like, there's no lock on this torque wrench, but it's one of the things of, not torque wrench, I don't want to keep calling it. It's star head, but, so it keeps bending a little bit, but these were actually kind of a pain to get out. MX. Now that we got that last one out, we're gonna gently pull up on it because it should leave the motherboard. Oh yeah, yeah. This used to be in a smoker's house, I think. So all this stuff is just kind of residue. Probably doesn't help that I think the cooling hasn't been working properly, so it might be a mix of the two. But there's definitely some browning around the ports, and also this heating pad is completely cacked. But notice some dust. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's more dry than it looks. Like, it looks like putty, but man, it was just like, it felt like dust that was just caked together with, like, it was nasty. But yeah, look at the dust on that. Holy cow. That X bracket is a case where you literally just gotta kind of not force it off, but it's like you gotta be a little careful. But it's kind of a donkey to get off of there. I'm just kind of inspecting it, seeing if there's anything obviously wrong outside of it being super dirty. So you're gonna try. It kind of hooks around on these little lips. It's literally like a hook but horizontal. You kind of gotta bend one direction, have them pop off. Make sure you're not forcing too hard, bending the metal or breaking anything. Just kind of lift up because you gotta kind of pop them over these ridges on the sides of the. I don't know what you call them, a screw, anchor. But the whole thing should pop off after you get 3 of them off. And holy cow, yeah, this thing needs some tender love and care. You're just gonna air it down. I'm not gonna be able to get all of it because I genuinely think a lot of this is just it needs a brush that I simply don't have. I'm going to get as much of it as I can off. I'm not going to keep hitting it over and over because I think that can's almost empty and I might need it later. But we're going to flip it over now. We can take the heatsink. I mean, theoretically, we can take the heatsink off. It's supposed to, based on your thermal paste, it's supposed to kind of just come off. Now there's nothing holding it. I'm staring at it because I genuinely am like worried that either I'm missing a screw or I'm not doing it right. And I genuinely looked up to see if it's supposed to come off easy, and it actually is. So based on how old your paste is, it's, you gotta kind of manage it. But I was just seeing if I could get some dust off real quick. So I want to also put a cloth down for the back of the board, because, man, I'm terrified of scratching up any kind of internals, especially, like, it's literally the whole under half of the motherboard, but yeah, that thing is not coming off. And worst case scenario, I'm imagining, just rip it straight off the front with a bunch of other stuff stuck to it. But I think it was just a thing, I just knew I'd be patient. You gotta kind of tug at it a little bit, see where it's given. But this is a case where it wasn't the thermal pads that were dried out, it was actually the paste itself was practically, oh my gosh, yeah, practically glue. Like, that paste is beyond where it should be. That is where you're looking at almost a decade of thermal paste right there, of old paste. That is, holy crow. Yeah, it's really not supposed to look like that. Yours might or might not, but it's a case of thermal paste is meant to kind of stay its consistency its whole life through. So if it's getting caked on enough to literally dry, oh man, you're doing something. Or it's just a real old console. But the approach to this is relatively simple. You want to just see what you can get off first with a dry Q-tip or cloth. As long as you're not using anything super abrasive or anything metal, foreshadowing. It's just a case that you should be all right. Already residue's coming off, even though I'm just using a dry one. But what you're really gonna need is some isopropyl alcohol, 91% specifically. 70 will work, but you're gonna be there 3 times as long. And even then, this took forever with 91%. So I can't imagine how long it would take with 70, but I even sped it up about 8 times just to, speed up me cleaning it. You gotta be real careful. I had to use metal tools. Some people you can get a hold of plastic picks, or even just toothpicks. Like, I was being real ginger about it, real careful. But just spend your time, being really, really sensitive with it and getting it out as many places as you can. I won't be able to get all of it, even though it might look like I do. But the whole time, you just kind of keep slowly reapplying the alcohol and then going back around it, cleaning it, chiseling out what is still there. It's just a real long process of just going at it, pretty much. Just the ones around the edges where the old paste overlapped were the worst by far. It was just a case of those ones you're really gonna have to spend your time on. But what you really want, though, is that main chip in the middle to look nice and shiny like a mirror, because it'll make our application of the new stuff all the better. This chip actually had faint burn marks on the top right side. You can't see them from here, but it was something I was looking at. I was like, oh, no kidding. Like, that's a real bad sign. It's pretty much like, it's the equivalent of seeing like plague sores on like in like the fucking 1800s, like with the Black Death. Like, it's not good. But we're kind of applying the medicine theoretically, so I can get the box open. Because you want this thing to remain cool. If this thing's not cool, then it's basically just gonna poison itself. But the MX4, Arctic MX4 thermal paste is kind of really what you want for this. You can use it for anything. It's kind of a not anything, but in regards to CPUs, GPUs, it's a bit of a multi-tool. Obviously check the specs for whatever you're gonna repair with it, but we're gonna just use that for now. We got to get all the pads off of here first, because these things were like the consistency of chewed gum, which they're not supposed to be. I mean, they're supposed to be kind of, yeah, look at the gunk. Ugh. They're not supposed to be, fun fact, but it's a case that we're still trying to get out. I even like just completely bin the glove. It would literally just dirty up everything else. But you know, whatever, you know, my hands are clean. I'm like, you know, I'm gonna bite the bullet, but if you really want to remain safe, you know, just put another glove on. But I'm just gonna kind of go in. We're gonna see if we can clean up this heat sink. This one was real hard. This was almost as hard as the CPU. I sped it up a little bit, but it was really gunked on there. Like, no thermal paste should be that dry. Thermal paste you typically want to switch out every 5 years or so. I mean, depending on use. And I scratched up the heatsink a little bit, but you know, it's just copper. It's not, you know, not that big of a deal. But in that time, I applied some pads, some new thermal pads. You don't have to. It's just a case of like, if you threw out the old ones, you will. Then we're just gonna apply the paste and kind of a line right up the middle. It kind of came out real fast for me. I mean, I had to fiddle with it a bit, but kind of just came out right across you. And this is a case of just take your time. I really just sort of rushed into it thinking it would spread like, you know, like pancake batter, but I accidentally put it too far over to the right a little. You can see that. But it took a while, just kind of like, you know, casually painting it pretty much. You want to get an even layer. That's the big thing. You want an even, uniform layer no matter what. There are some areas, it looks not uniform, but that's just because there's some areas that went off of the chip. The chip itself is completely covered. But you want to, you know, basically take your time if you can. I gotta remove these stickers off of these. Oh, jeez. Yep, that's the headache. Anyways, so we basically gotta, you know, cut and make a new one of those. But basically, anytime you're peeling off stickers, especially for thermal pads, I've learned just be super patient, because two of these guys, you know, tried sacrificing themselves for, you know, the freedom of their brothers. They tried jumping right back into anywhere else but where they were meant to be on those little RAM chips. But yeah, so your desk might be looking as chaotic as mine. It might not. You know, it's always better to have more than less. But gotta orient the heatsink in the right direction, or else you're just going to mess up your thermal paste and it won't click in. So you want to orient it so that bar on that one side is resting up against that long strip that we put for the thermal pads, that long strip that we put on the MOSFET. I think that's what it's called. Just kind of pop it in there. It will, you know, make sure it's just going through the brackets in the back. As long as it's going through brackets in the back, you don't got to worry about a thing. After you screw this in, you can clean out the heatsink if it's like obviously dirty. Mine wasn't. I quickly, you know, checked to see how bad the dust is. Just, you know, microfiber cloth, see if I can quickly, you know, get most of it. Not all of it, but, you know, just do kind of like overall. It's not super bad compared to when I originally got this. It was filled with all sorts of gunk, but it's still a thing. Like, you know, maintaining any sort of electronics is the key to longevity and really keeping them around any longer. I will have to apply, I realize I have to apply a thermal pad to the south bridge. That's that little black chip right there. I'm not even gonna lie, I don't know what it does. I just know the, you know, the terminology. But it's another case where that was the white thermal pad that we kind of wiped off the bottom plate, that little white thing that kind of just turned into like dust putty. So we're just going to reapply a new one to those, and we should be gravy. But I'm going to quickly try. You kind of like the same technique, just the opposite. You got to kind of bend these back around. Not bend them, but like, you know, kind of apply enough pressure to temporarily pop them back. Be real careful, because this is the thing. Like, if any one of these pops off, I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world, but ideally you want all of those to be in one piece. In bending, I mean, I'm assuming you're not going to break it, but if you do, that's take it easy there, Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, I don't know if anyone gets that reference nowadays, but it's one of those things. All this, you know, just following the core principle. You know, you gotta remain patient and figure out what you need. You know, treat everything like it's fragile. I'm currently wondering if I missed a thermal pad on the other side because I found an extra, and I thought, oh no, did I forget to apply one to one of the ram banks? But nope, just had an extra, and the extra's underneath where my hand is, but it's a thing of the one that I'm currently holding is for the south bridge. I'm trying to figure out a way to apply it without, you know, just pulling it straight off, which I end up doing once or twice. So it's just the kind of thing. Once again, you got to be patient. That's the key to any, you know, successful repair or cleaning. Now we're just going to kind of pancake it back to the other side because we need to put those 4 black screws back in. The second we get that in shape, we're fine. We don't got to worry about anything else. I want to highlight again that the thermal pads are optional for, you know, replacement. It's just more the thermal paste for the CPU, but it's still something that, you know, it helps. It helps to have the right stuff and to, you know, to have something that's aiding the cooling. But it's one of the things, you know, you don't need it. It's just, it helps. Cut back to when I have the 4 screws in, flipped it over. Then we're going to put the power supply and the fan back in. Once again, just kind of put it back over it. You know, the brackets where it's supposed to be and will show up. Just kind of line it up to where the screws are going to go. Be a little careful. You know, you don't want to crush anything, but put that back there. Make sure that that power port thing is facing the right way or not smushed or anything, because worst case scenario, you put this together and then you realize it's you put the where you're supposed to put the cord in isn't the right way, and you gotta disassemble the whole thing again. But got that in, and you know, now we gotta make sure it's just going in through the back. Yep. So it should be good. It's just a thing of, like, you know, obviously if anything's sticking up or looks odd, you know, inspect it, make sure it's, you know, supposed to be there, everything closes, and, you know, it's form fitting. But next we're going to put back in whatever drive you have, either your SSD or solid state. As I said, the one that I got is just a generic one. I don't even know what company it's from. I got it like resale and just stuck a sticker on it and called it a day. But make sure you plug your fan in too. That's a big thing, because if you assemble the whole thing and then suddenly your fan's not working, it's just a case of because your fan wasn't plugged in. But you can notice the fan's a little bit dirty. Yeah, I promise you it looks worse on camera. But it's the thing of, as I said, I don't have a brush to properly get in there. If I were you, I'd take some time cleaning the fan. I even blew some canned air on it and it didn't do much. But after you get all the cords snapped in for your hard drive, you're going to put the disk drive back in. Same exact thing, put it into the 2 ports in the back. And you're just going to, after you get those in, be careful again, because one of them has a lot of pins that you can easily bend, break, you know. These aren't machines that are meant to be taken apart multiple times. But if you're me, I've been lugging this thing around for 2 years and taking it apart probably 14 times over those 2 years. Literally, sometimes just to stare at it. Like, but you know, make sure it's fit, make sure it's hooked in on there. And now we're in the home stretch. We pretty much just have to reassemble the frame and put the case back on it and call it a day. But make sure the plates go around that edge of the disc tray. Make sure, yeah, you can kind of hold that pad to make sure it doesn't pull. There's a pad on the side of where you put the disc in. Make sure it just kind of drags along that and doesn't pull it down, because if it pulls it down, it could just look bad or get stuck, and it's just not super satisfying. But so with the 2 fingers, kind of like, you know, a little bunny rabbit thing, kind of pull out that plastic bit just a little bit, just bend it, just so that that back end can slot real easy along that side. We're gonna put our 2 screws back in. I actually switched them out. I put the longer one because there's a shorter one and a longer one. I'll be honest, I don't know where either of them go because I've, you know, back before I had any kind of screw organization, I like messed up where they were supposed to go. So I switched them out. I put the longer one in where the shorter one is just kind of, you know, digging out. And they seem to work great. You know, these ones will be a little more stiff because it's holding a lot of stuff together. But I said, just be patient. You know, take your time. Looking at this table, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I thought about filming on a bigger table, but just the way that my recording setup is, this is how it kind of has to be. And I'm sitting here being like, you know, whose idea was this? But we're doing good. After you get those 2 in, you're going to want to get your top plate on. This is the only other stressful part, is getting that whole assembly with the ribbon and power button, you know, around that one side. Just make sure you're doing it on the right side and you're not, when it's flipped over, you're not pinching that little bracket cable on the side. Make sure it's just kind of hanging loosely because it's really easy to pinch it, and they're not pinching it, but like get it kind of bent, yeah, like that against that assembly. But you're going to be real careful with it. Slot it across the front so it locks into the disc, the little nubs on the disc drive, and then put it over the back. You'll know it's right when it's real flat, like, you know, firm. It won't rattle around any. Now you're going to flip it over, and you're going to put that back in. Anytime you're putting one of these plugs in on the front, you know, where these boards hook in, be real gentle. They will like almost slide in on their own. If you're feeling resistance, literally just like take it easy, because it's so easy to bend all those pins. And this is the thing, I like, be real careful. Also with the bracket too, just like, you know, slide it back over, pop it on, you should be good. But those plugs alone will actually hold that the sideboards into the rest of the plates in the assembly. Obviously you still need to screw them in, but it's the thing of like, once you get it in, even though it's easy to go in when it's supposed to, but it stays firm enough that you should be okay. And start a lot of these screws by hand, especially if you've taken it on an awful lot. After you've, assembled or taken this apart a lot, you get really good at, the motion of like screwing and unscrewing with like screwdrivers or just any kind of apparatus. It's kind of funny because the first day I remember taking this apart, a few years ago, it took forever, man. It was like 2 hours of me being, scared to damage anything, and then basically I realized this is just the outside of the frame. Like, the worst you can do is over tighten a screw, and even then I'm trying to get in, not get out. But for these longer gold ones, be really careful with them, because they're finer. They're longer. It takes a while to screw them in, and it's easy to want to just kind of speed it up. But it's one of those things that are pretty sensitive. These back screws hold in and kind of align the power cord. They're going to be real stiff because that insert really doesn't want to stay in place sometimes, but you really got to kind of, that's the one thing you got to kind of give it the business. Like, really tighten it and make sure, check the back, make sure the prongs are poking out the right way, and you should be set. But those are two real important, real convenient screws. But next we're gonna, see what we got going. We're gonna put in the longer screws. Usually put in the longer ones first. It's just easier to remember. If you're wondering what holes the longer ones go in, literally just test them out. Like, see which ones can fit the full width. You'll usually just slide right in until about half of an inch will be exposed. Whereas on the smaller ones, they won't even get in that much. So it's a thing of like, you'll kind of get a feel for it after a while. feel free to flip it around, orient it however. I'm just doing it like this so I can, you know, look at my little fake screw map and see kind of where everything goes based on where I have all those kind of hiding away on the right side of the table. But it really helps in the long run. See, even I gotta sometimes check where they go. I know this might be obvious, and maybe it's a crime to, you know, mention this so late in the video, but this will void the crap out of your warranty if you still even have a warranty. I don't even know if warranties are still active for 1Xs, but like for Series X and Series S definitely, but for 1X I'm not sure. We're just gonna keep screwing in all these ones, you know, just basically take your time, be patient. Maybe you can put on some music if you don't have some already. Yeah, just one by one. Now that we got that. Also retrieve the side, one of the other side plates. Make sure that the little metal L is facing in the right orientation. There'll be almost a little copper outline on the back side, so you know it'll fit well, and you'll know what way it's facing. Once again, put it into that little black plug area. Make sure it goes in easy. Test a little bit, but do not force it. It'll even just stay there, just like that. Give you a chance to get the screws. Reminder, the black screw is the screw all the way on that right side, right there. The other two silver screws are interchangeable, I believe, so you should be okay. That's one of those things of, once again, just take the time, get all those screws in. Really are in the home stretch. It's like kind of crazy to think that we had this thing's guts open about an hour ago. Now we're putting the last bit on, and putting the top shell back on. Make sure the loop on that one side, that longer side, hooks into that back part, because if it doesn't, that screw won't work, and also it'll just feel horrible. You pretty much break the side of it if you try forcing it, but kind of got to hook it in there, put it down along the side, real gentle. That is the quickest I've ever reassembled that. Usually I struggle with it for about 5 minutes, but once again, just be patient, and yeah, you know, I'm kind of rushing through it because I'm so happy to finally get the last 2 screws in it, and then you know, test it out. So my thing is, I don't really care if it's you know, quieter or not. When I did test it, it was quieter, but this portion, I really just want to see if it turns on at all. And bingo, there we go.